Before we begin tonight's episode, please be advised that this story contains discussions of fear, disturbing encounters, stalking behavior, and themes that may be unsettling to some listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. Hi guys. So over the past few weeks, we've talked about murder and betrayal and disappearances. The kind of stories that eventually at least give some sort of explanation. But tonight's story is different. Because this is one of those legends that people swear isn't a legend at all. A story that has been whispered about for decades online, shared in paranormal forums, late-night radio shows, and by terrified people who all seem to describe the exact same thing. Children standing outside in the dark, knocking on their doors, asking to be let in. Every single person who encounters them says the same thing. Something about them feels deeply wrong. This is the terrifying legend of the black-eyed children. Most people trace the modern legend back to a man named Brian Bethel, a journalist from Texas. And according to Brian, this wasn't just some ghost story that he had heard from a friend of a friend. He says that it happened to him. On a night in the late 1900s, Brian pulled into a movie theater parking lot. It was dark and quiet, the kind of night where nothing feels unusual until it suddenly does. Brian sat in his car writing a check when he heard a knock on his driver's side window. And standing there were two boys. At first glance, they looked normal enough, around 12 or 13 years old, wearing hoodies with pale skin and awkward smiles. But immediately Brian felt uneasy. Not scared exactly, just overwhelming instinct telling him something was wrong. The older boy spoke calmly and politely. He told Brian that he wanted money for movie tickets, and then he asked something strange. He asked Brian for a ride home. Now, normally you'd just assume that these kids were trying to scam somebody. But Brian later explained that something about the boys' behavior didn't feel human. The way they spoke, the way they stared. And Brian noticed something else. The boys would not stop insisting that he let them in the car. Over and over again. You have to let us in. We can't come in unless you invite us. And suddenly Brian's fear shifted to full panic. Every instinct in his body was screaming. Then he looked directly into the older boy's eyes. Solid black. No whites. No pupils. Nothing. Just black. Brian immediately rolled up his window and drove away. And even years later, he still insists that those kids were not normal. After Brian shared his experience online, something strange happened. More stories started appearing, and not just like a few, dozens, and then hundreds. People from completely different places, different backgrounds, different states, all describing nearly identical encounters. Children showing up late at night on isolated roads, outside of homes, near gas stations, and at apartment doors, always asking for help and always asking to come inside. Almost every witness described the same overwhelming feeling. Pure dread. The kind that makes your stomach drop before your heart even understands why. One of the most unsettling stories came from a woman who claimed that she heard knocking at her front door around 2 a.m. Now, me personally, if someone knocks on my door at 2 a.m., I'm running. But when she looked through the peephole, she saw 2 children standing outside, completely still. The girl wore an oversized hoodie, and the boy stood slightly beside her with his head lowered. The woman later said the entire situation felt off from the beginning, but then the girl spoke. "Please let us in." The woman said that their voices sounded strange, like almost rehearsed, like they were repeating lines they had memorized. And then came the sentence that terrified her the most. "We're just kids." Now, at first, that sounds harmless, right? But according to witnesses, that phrase never feels comforting when they say it. It feels threatening. Like they know exactly what they're supposed to sound like, but not exactly how humans are supposed to behave. The woman refused to open the door. And that's when the children slowly looked up. Black eyes. Completely black. The woman says that she backed away from the door in a panic. And moments later, the knocking stopped. And when she looked outside again, they were gone. Now, here's the part of the stories that is honestly the most unsettling for me. It's not even the eyes. It's the feeling that people describe before they ever even notice them. Almost every witness explains it the same way. Like something ancient in your brain is screaming, "Do not let them in." People describe nausea and dizziness, panic, sudden fear, and even paralysis. And some witnesses even claimed that their pets reacted violently before the children even appeared. Dogs growling and cats hissing. Animals refusing to go near doors or windows. And honestly, animals picking up on something before humans will never not freak me out. So naturally, people started trying to figure out exactly what these children are supposed to be. And honestly, the theories only make the story creepier. Some people believe that the black-eyed children are demons. Others believe that they're extraterrestrials, attempting to imitate human behavior. Some think that they're spirits or even vampires because one detail that keeps appearing in all the stories, they allegedly cannot enter unless invited, which sounds a lot like old vampire folklore. Others think the entire phenomenon is psychological, a modern urban legend fueled by internet fear and mass hysteria. And look, normally I would lean toward that explanation, except for one thing. All these stories sound so similar, like people who claim that they've had these encounters describe the same speech patterns, behaviors, the same fear, the same black eyes, even when they supposedly never heard the stories beforehand. And that part makes this legend so unsettling. One truck driver described stopping at a rest stop late night during a heavy rain. As he sat in the cab, he suddenly heard knocking. 2 children stood in the rain, staring directly at him. Now, according to the driver, the children didn't look wet at all, and that alone is horrifying. The older child spoke first. "We need to use your phone." The driver said that every instinct told him not to open the door, but he still tried talking to them through the little crack in his window. That's when the younger child stepped forward, and the driver saw his eyes. solid black. The driver immediately rolled up his window and locked his doors. And according to him, the children just stood there, smiling, until he drove away. What makes the black-eyed children legend so effective is that it targets something deeply human: trust. Because every story begins with someone deciding whether to help or not. And the children always appear vulnerable at first, cold and lost and scared. But the longer the interaction continues, the more witnesses realize they're not dealing with normal children. And honestly, there's something incredibly disturbing about fear wearing the face of a child. Because children are supposed to make us feel protective, safe, not terrified. Maybe the black-eyed children are just an internet legend. Maybe every story has a rational explanation. Or maybe there are really things in this world pretending to be human. Things that stand just outside of the light, waiting for someone to open the door. And honestly, I think that that's what makes the story stick with people. The possibility. Because after hearing these encounters, I don't think any of us would answer a knock at the door the same way again. Especially not in the middle of the night. I really hope that you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. And I honestly don't even know if enjoyed is the right word, because researching this truly creeped me out. But if you guys want more paranormal stories, folklore, or unexplained mysteries, please send them to me. You know I like to get spooky. This has been What's Done in the Dark, where every secret casts a shadow. I'm Tierra, and remember, what's done in the dark never stays there for long.